There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Sean Blackburn with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Jessica Mayer. She is the VP of Marketing at Notarize. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Absolutely. Excited to have you on the show today. Today we're going to be talking about lessons in generating over 1 million leads and users. But before we begin, if you could tell our listeners a little bit about you and what you and the team over at Notarize are up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently VP of Marketing at an early stage company called Notarize, and we are the first company to allow anyone to connect with a notary online 24/7. Before I was at Notarize, I've worked with other high growth SaaS companies such as HubSpot and Envision, where a lot of our markets were about generating high volume of leads and users. And so it's a topic that I'm very passionate about and excited to chat about today.
With this sort of topic, it's always an exciting one, the vision of generating, 1 million leads and users. Overall, why do you say that you are passionate about this topic? And does it just have to do with the massive opportunity that's there?
It is a combination of, I would say, creativity and data, which are two things that I love. And I think the biggest thing is it's very tangible to tie that to actually the bottom line of the business, right? You can actually see an impact that you're making on the overall growth of a company. And for me, that's really exciting.
What separates these companies that generate massive amounts of users so quickly?
Absolutely. There are a few different themes that I've noticed, both from the companies that I've worked at and also the hundreds of different startups that I talk to on a regular basis. And I'd say there are probably three things. The first one is organizationally, they value and invest in growth in the first place. And that sounds pretty basic, but I actually find a lot of startups actually just don't really value or kind of invest in the marketing side in the first place. So I think that's really, really important. The second thing is, they're typically investing in three different things. One is inbound marketing, which you can say is really top of funnel growth, content marketing, growth marketing, et cetera. The second is product-led growth. So product as an extension of your marketing. And then the third is brand. It's not just about being known, but about being loved. And the third one is that typically I see companies and teams kind of adopt this belief that is used at the premise of their marketing approach, and that is they want to be the platform. It's not just about generating leads, but about kind of creating a community and wanting people to come back and kind of being a part of the things that you're creating. It's almost thinking about your marketing as a lifestyle brand. And so that's really a methodology that I tend to see a lot of these companies adopt.
Yeah, the lifestyle brand. That is that evokes just a lot of emotion, obviously, and that's the connection that you want for your business with any sort of consumer of it. What's some of the examples that you've seen? Maybe how do you guys do this at Notarize, or maybe at past positions? Obviously, at HubSpot, I'm sure that you rub shoulders with a lot of examples like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we focused a lot on creating content, creating materials, creating resources that people wanted to consume, and they were excited to see us, continue to, push things out to market, and wanted to, just be able to consume and take in more of what we're creating. I think I see a lot of companies just kind of push out stuff for the sake of pushing things out. Whereas how do you just create things that people are just generally really excited about? And, we focus a lot on the marketing that we do and the content we create at all the companies I've been at, including Notarize, where we just set the bar really, really high. We want to do something different. We want to create something that people, really find exciting and valuable or interesting or entertaining or whatever that is. And that's what gets people to keep coming back. I will give one example, what we did at Envision. So at Envision, we actually created a full-length documentary. And this documentary interviewed a lot of the top design-driven companies kind of in the world. And we did a whole red carpet premiere, and we had hundreds of thousands of people come to these premieres. And then we actually gave people the documentary to host screenings in their office. So what this did is not only did it create really valuable content that was unique, but it created a virality effect within all of these organizations so that they could also invite everyone within their company to come watch this documentary. And we did, hundreds of different screenings across the world. And it was just a really exciting thing to be a part of.
Very cool. So we talked kind of about some of those top of funnel activities. What are some of those lead gen techniques that have worked best in this idea of generating 1 million leads and users?
Yeah, I think so. There's lots of different things that I think you can do well and not do well. But I think the first thing is, as an organization, you always have to be shipping. You got to constantly be putting things out to market, because the more chances you actually have at conversion, the more leads and users you will be generating. I think I see a lot of teams make the mistake where they only publish things once a quarter or every 6 months. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? You got to be putting something out there every single day. You want to be creating lots of different offers and lots of different content and always be shipping. I think the second thing is headlines matter and details matter. I have created probably over 100 different ebooks so far in my career, and that made me get really good at creating headlines. And, people unfortunately do judge a book by its cover, right? If people don't find the content or the headline really intriguing, they're most likely not going to download it or want to access it. So I spent a lot of time A/B testing different headlines, and there's a lot of great resources out there that actually scientifically kind of show with the words that you use what will actually triggers people's interest. So I pay a lot of attention into creating really, really good headlines and really great copy up front, because I notice that makes a really big difference in conversion. And I think the third thing I'd say is kind of weaponizing every square inch of your marketing. So making sure that, for example, when you're building a marketing campaign, what are all the touch points that people can convert on that thing? Where do you put all your calls to action? Where are you sharing it in social? I think sometimes companies could put something out there and expect that people will come, instead of putting in the time and the effort to think about what are all the places and ways you can actually create and convert leads and users in the first place. So we spend a lot of time actually mapping out the buyer's journey of somebody as they think about going through our marketing landscape, and actually highlighting and looking at what are places for conversion, and then also what are places to weaponize content and marketing for sales. So it's not only about generating leads, but also what are some other opportunities where we can say, hey, this could actually generate a sales MQL or SQL for us. And, the details, I think, in that really matter when you think about weaponizing your entire landscape of your marketing programs.
Today's growth story is all about search engine marketing. The company we're highlighting is SentinelOne. This challenger cybersecurity brand was set out to disrupt the endpoint protection space. Their brand was top-notch, their product was innovative, but they were struggling to gain traction online in an already developed industry. Then they found Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency. Within the first quarter of working with Directive, SentinelOne was able to increase their organic traffic by 128%. And overall lead volume by an outstanding 251%. Now, I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Really like that mindset overall, and even just that word weaponizing, and it evokes some strong language, and I like that a lot. Is there any sort of examples within the last couple of years that maybe is something unique or something that kind of surprised you as a spot that you weren't weaponizing before, but now that you've gone and kind of mapped that buyer's journey, that now there's a strategic spot that you're like, man, we should have been doing this years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you another InVision example, only because this is more recent memory. So we were launching this new resource called designbetter.co, and we were creating this whole separate website of essentially a magazine style format and launching books within this format for executives. And we, knew that if we were just going to put it out there on the web, there was no place for people to really find it. And so we actually whiteboarded what are all the places that people can discover this content. And then within the content, again, how do we get people to get deeper into the content and then share the content with others, encourage word of mouth, and then also what are the specific places in the website and in the books that we can say, hey, this could actually generate a sales opportunity for us. And so we actually looked at individual pages, individual assets to know where we can kind of get the biggest impact from that.
I love that. It's so tactical. Yeah, that's great. There's probably some common mistakes that you see companies and marketers make whenever they are approaching this idea of generating a lot of leads and users at one time. What are some of those things that you see over and over again that you just really want to help people with?
Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes myself over the years, and also see a lot of companies I see some similar trends in some of the mistakes that companies are making. The first one is in a lack of value creation. We know that there is a ton of crappy content out there on the internet and a lot of really bad marketing. And Indeed. It's really in essence, because a lot of these companies don't think about how what they're creating is valuable to the people that are going to consume it. So that in itself is very basic. But I think, when that happens, either the marketing or the content is lacking substance, or it's a little too self-serving. So instead of thinking about, why am I creating things that are exciting to me as a company and as a marketer, but like what's really going to fire people up and what are they really going to find valuable? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is a lot of marketing can fall victim to mediocrity. Right. And so sometimes they're obsessing over the competition or what other people are doing. And when that happens, the marketing that you'll create will lack originality. And then, you will fall victim to, kind of being the same as everyone else. And this is why at InVision, we created a documentary. Like nobody was creating anything like that. We wanted to go big. We wanted to do something different. And we wanted to create something that had a lot of value. So I think, overall, those are some of the biggest mistakes that I see. And then also probably a third one is, they're not weaponizing all of the things that they're doing. They're kind of putting a piece of content out there. Maybe they're throwing a little bit of ad spend on it. And then once they turn off the ad spend, then the traffic stops. So I think, how do you create these viral loops and through the valuable content you're creating in the first place?
You mentioned it's been a journey for you with your career to learn all of this. What would you say is some of the encouragement that you would have for someone else who's sitting in a chair similar to yours, or earlier in their career? What sort of mindset has really lended itself to this high growth mindset overall?
Getting comfortable with merging creativity and data. I actually started with an art degree. Not in any kind of data. So I think that the growth side and the data side is something that I had to learn early on in my career. And it's super, super valuable. I think the other thing too is, I almost held back a little bit too much over fear that the things that I was creating weren't good enough. And so one thing that I learned is just to keep putting things out to market, keep testing things. A lot of marketers don't even do basic A/B testing with a lot of the programs that they're creating. So I think just getting good at that and then obsessing over how you can get better and better and better, and assigning yourselves some aggressive goals for those things. And then, once you do that, you'll start to see some real growth.
Well, Jessica, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. And we love your perspective and the lessons that you shared in generating over 1 million leads and users. If anybody has any questions, wants to follow up and connect with you, what's the best way for someone to find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. My handle is just Jessica Mayer. So connect with me on that. I would love to meet you.
And if you need anything notarized, folks, go to
Notarize.com.
That's right. There you go. Well, perfect. Jessica, thanks again for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.